Do the instincts oscillate through the core types in your tritype, the way that as a tritype you oscillate through? So, I'll use myself as an example.
Go ahead.
For the sake of being compliant, I wrote self-pres, sexual, and socials all those last. It doesn't matter what test I take. It doesn't matter how much introspection I do. How many times I've bounced it off of wiser ears who've known me for years or what have you. I keep coming up that my self-pres and my sexual, if those jokers, they run neck and neck, and I have self-observed when I switch one off and pick the other one up. And in some observation that I did with myself in very specific environments, like you said, oscillating through the type, this is not the place to be an 8, Nick. Don't do it here.
That's like what Spencer was saying, when I'm teaching at the Federal Reserve Bank, that's not the place to show my flippant nature until I realize that the head of the bank is an 8.
Right, exactly. But I would notice that with the oscillation, at times there would be a movement, or more accurately, a rising. Yeah, I think that's better. A rising of another instinct to say, let me guide this.
Yes. So here's the thing. When I first was doing this in 94, 95, I thought, wouldn't it be just very meaningful and elegant if we had an instinct with each type? Now, at an advanced level, that is true and does work. But what I found instead is the dominant instinct is so pervasive that the stacking became important. Now, when I learned about the Enneagram, the belief was there weren't books out. There was only one book, and most people didn't know about it. But it didn't go into a lot of the material that later became available anyhow. But I did have the notes from Kathy Spieth, who was Naranjo's girlfriend. For those of you who don't know, they were in a study group created by Naranjo after he had spent 8 months with Echazo in Arica, Chile. He went there and started working with Echazo, and then stayed and did 5 months of the 10-month training that is so famous now, the July 1st, 1970 training that introduced the Enneagram as, to a degree, as we know it today. Now, obviously, they have taken different paths, and my focus is to bring them back together, because Chazo came up with some phenomenal things, and some of his changes were equally phenomenal, as did Naranjo. Subtypes are from Naranjo, not Echazo. They don't use subtypes at all in Arica. They didn't even know about it. So when I met the Aricans, when I lived on Maui for a year, they go, no, we don't do that. It's never taught that. So you want to just look at it in terms of what came from where and what belief, but the instinct is all pervasive. What have you noticed, Spence?
Yeah.
Say one thing first, Spencer, just to add to your answer, is that what I really liked from Echazo is that the head types had the practical ego, the how-to. The gut types had the historical ego, remembering things in a physical way. And the heart types had relational ego, the ego that was based on their connection to others. And they were called conservation for the gut, and then relation for the heart. And originally syntony for the head types, but he changed it to adaptation, just for those of you who don't know that. So Spencer, go ahead and answer any way you want.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to still think from the dominant headspace that, your primary number is still has major influence, your primary instinct has major influence. But a lot of times I totally feel that situation or time of life or whatever the case may be, something might get activated more. I like to use the phrase costume. Like when my 4 comes out, it is an 8 wearing a 4's costume. Like I am still an 8, but I am acting out the things and demonstrating the things that are important to my 4 because that's what's getting hit right now, and vice versa. And so I view the instincts similar. That I can't imagine a time where they oscillate to the point where social is more important than my sexual. However, I will recognize I am in a party. This is a social atmosphere. So you will see my social 846 way more clearly in that environment. I imagine as I get, more and more, older and, like I'm already aware of like my back stuff that's activating my self-pres. I'm becoming more and more aware of that and it's being more and more prioritized. But at the same time, my belief still is, and this might change, is if all 3 were to go wrong at the same time, I would still take care of them in a certain order. I will not be able to think straight until things with my wife are okay.
That's it.
Once that's taken care of, I will then deal with how this has impacted my multiple groups. And then when that's okay, it's like, when's the last time I slept? When's the last time and so I will take care of it in that order. So yes, there's an oscillation based on environment, but if all 3 are activated, that's not oscillating for me. It's still like, I can't even think about this until I handle my sexual stuff. And then I can't even think about the self-pres until the social is knocked out and boom, 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 and so.
But 1 is still in the lead.
Okay.
And if we think they're the same, then there's something that could be innate to our tritype that we don't see. Mm-hmm. So you have the same tritype as Spence. So you 2 will really be able to language things in the way that you won't need translation. And if you have self-present sexual close, it could be either because the gut types are already self-pres oriented, wanting their comforts, their ease, all gut types. But if you can't really have that ease, if you're off with your intimate relationship and you lead with the sexual, which is what I do, I'm going to sacrifice my physical needs for that relationship. I'm going to need to talk right away with the person that I'm out of sync with that matters to me.
Okay.
Thank you.